The day my husband told an entire courtroom that I could never give him a child, I didn't interrupt him. I didn't cry. I didn't even look at him. I simply sat beside my attorney, folded my hands in my lap, and waited. My name is Emily Carter. I was 34 years old, and after 9 years of marriage, I was about to lose everything I thought we had built together. The courthouse overlooked downtown San Diego, and through the tall windows I could see the California sun reflecting off the glass buildings outside. It should have been a beautiful morning. Instead, it became the day I realized the man I loved had spent years rewriting our story into a lie. My husband, Daniel Carter, stood confidently before the judge. He looked exactly the way everyone expected a successful attorney to look. Expensive navy suit. Perfect smile. Calm voice. His parents sat behind him, quietly wiping away tears. His sister reached for his hand as though he were the victim. Daniel looked toward the judge and sighed. "Your Honor," he began, "I stayed in this marriage much longer than anyone knows." He paused dramatically before continuing. "Emily couldn't have children." My stomach tightened, but I remained silent. I begged her to consider adoption. I begged her to seek treatment. I did everything I could to save our family. Several people in the courtroom looked at me with sympathy. Others looked with disappointment, as though I had somehow failed him. Daniel lowered his head. At some point, a man has to accept that he'll never have the family he dreamed of. His mother quietly started crying. His father placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. The performance was flawless. If I hadn't lived through the truth myself, I might have believed him too. My attorney leaned toward me. "You don't have to let him do this," she whispered. I looked straight ahead. "Not yet." Daniel continued speaking, as though he were delivering the closing argument of his career. "I don't hate my wife," he said softly. "I just want the chance to become a father before it's too late." The judge slowly nodded while making notes. Then Daniel's attorney requested a short recess before the next witness was called. As people began standing, Daniel glanced across the courtroom and gave me a look that almost resembled pity. He believed he had already won. He believed everyone in that room accepted his version of the story. My attorney quietly closed her folder and smiled for the first time that morning. "He's made a very serious mistake," she said. I looked at her. "Are they here?" She nodded once. "They just walked into the building." Before I could answer, the courtroom doors slowly opened, and a little girl holding the hand of a pediatric surgeon stepped inside. The entire courtroom fell silent as the little girl walked beside the pediatric surgeon. She couldn't have been older than 5. She wore a pale yellow dress, white sneakers, and held a small stuffed rabbit against her chest. Daniel glanced at her for barely a second before looking away. He had no idea why she was there. Neither did his parents. The judge frowned. "Counselor," she said, looking toward my attorney, "who is this?" My attorney stood. "Your Honor, before today's hearing continues, the defense requests permission to call one additional witness." Daniel's attorney immediately objected. "This witness wasn't listed." My attorney calmly handed a folder to the judge. "The court approved the amendment yesterday evening." The judge opened the documents, read them for several seconds, then nodded. "Objection overruled." Daniel's confident smile faded for the first time that morning. The pediatric surgeon gently knelt beside the little girl. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "remember what we talked about?" She nodded. "Just tell the truth." She smiled nervously before looking around the courtroom. Then her eyes stopped on Daniel. For a moment she simply stared at him. I felt my heart pounding so loudly I thought everyone could hear it. Finally, the little girl whispered one word, "Daddy." Every sound in the courtroom disappeared. Daniel looked confused. "I'm sorry," he said. "I think she's mistaken." My attorney slowly stood. "No, Mr. Carter." She walked toward the witness table and placed a sealed envelope in front of the judge. "She isn't." Daniel laughed nervously. This is ridiculous. My attorney didn't even look at him. The child standing in this courtroom was born 5 years ago at St. Mary's Medical Center in San Diego. She paused before continuing. The delivery was performed by the very doctor standing beside her. The surgeon adjusted his glasses and faced the judge. My name is Dr. Nathan Collins. His voice remained calm. I've been a pediatric surgeon for 23 years. He looked briefly toward the little girl before continuing. I was also present the night she was born. Daniel slowly shook his head. I've never seen this child before, Doctor. Collins nodded. That's true. He opened a medical file and removed several documents. Because less than 24 hours after her birth. He looked directly at Daniel. You signed paperwork refusing all parental responsibility. Gasps echoed across the courtroom. Daniel's mother covered her mouth with both hands. His father stared at his son in complete disbelief. Daniel immediately stood. That's impossible, Doctor. Collins calmly slid the final page across the witness stand. At the bottom of the document was Daniel's signature. Daniel stared at the signature for several long seconds. That isn't possible, he whispered. He picked up the document with shaking hands and looked at every page. I never abandoned my child. My attorney calmly walked toward the judge. Then perhaps Mr. Carter would like to explain why his driver's license number, his signature, and his notarized identification appear on every page. Daniel's attorney quickly stood. Your Honor, we request time to examine these documents. The judge nodded. You'll have that opportunity. She turned back to Daniel. But at this moment, I would also like an explanation. Daniel swallowed hard. For the first time since the hearing began, he had no prepared speech. No polished answer. No performance. His parents looked at him in complete disbelief. His mother quietly whispered, Daniel. He refused to look at her, Doctor. Collins remained on the witness stand. There is something else the court should know. He opened another medical file. Emily was never infertile. A wave of whispers spread through the courtroom. Daniel slowly turned toward me. His face had gone completely pale. Doctor. Collins continued. 5 years ago, Emily gave birth to a healthy baby girl. He paused before adding, the medical emergency happened after the delivery. He looked directly at the judge. The child was diagnosed with a rare congenital heart defect that required immediate surgery. The courtroom became silent again. Doctors informed both parents that multiple operations would be necessary during the first years of her life. Daniel interrupted him. You told us she probably wouldn't survive, Doctor. Collins nodded once. I told you she faced a difficult road. Then his expression hardened. I never said she wouldn't survive. He opened another page from the medical record. In fact, I strongly recommended beginning treatment immediately. My attorney slowly walked toward the evidence table and placed another folder beside the judge. Your Honor, inside this folder are emails, hospital records, and signed consent forms. She looked directly at Daniel. Mr. Carter attended every meeting with the medical team. Daniel lowered his eyes. That's not true. My attorney opened the first email and read it aloud. *** from Daniel Carter. Subject, I can't spend my life raising a sick child. *** nobody moved. She read another message. *** ask Emily to sign the papers. If she refuses, I'll sign them myself. *** Daniel's mother burst into tears. His father stood up so suddenly that his chair crashed onto the courtroom floor. Tell me she's lying, he said, his voice trembling. Daniel couldn't answer. He simply stared at the floor. Then the little girl quietly looked at him again and asked the question that broke every heart in the courtroom, Daddy. She hugged her stuffed rabbit a little tighter. Why didn't you want me? Nobody answered the little girl. Daniel stood frozen in the middle of the courtroom, staring at the floor as though he hoped the question would disappear. His mother quietly sobbed into a handkerchief while his father looked at him with an expression I had never seen before. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment. The judge allowed the silence to linger before finally speaking. "Mr. Carter," she said calmly, "answer the child." Daniel slowly lifted his head. His voice cracked. "I thought." He couldn't finish the sentence. My attorney stood and placed another folder on the judge's bench. "Your Honor, Mr. Carter has spent the last 5 years telling friends, relatives, and even this court that my client was unable to have children." She opened the folder. These are copies of social media posts, emails, and sworn statements from family members repeating exactly what he told them. The judge reads several pages before looking back at Daniel. "Did you knowingly tell people your wife was infertile?" Daniel closed his eyes. After several seconds, he whispered one word, "Yes." A wave of whispers swept through the courtroom. His mother looked horrified. "You told us she couldn't have children," she said through tears. "You said doctors confirmed it." Daniel didn't respond. His father slowly walked toward the center of the courtroom. "All these years," he said quietly, "we blamed Emily." He turned toward me with tears in his eyes. "We thought you had hidden the truth from our son." I simply nodded. There was nothing left to explain. The truth had finally reached them on its own. Dr. Collins opened one final medical file. "There is one more document the court should see." He handed it to the judge. "This is Emily's medical clearance after giving birth." The judge adjusted her glasses and read the conclusion aloud. *** future pregnancies remain medically possible. No evidence of infertility. *** Daniel's entire story collapsed in a single sentence. Then my attorney looked toward the courtroom doors. "Your Honor, the defense has one final witness." A woman in blue surgical scrubs quietly walked inside. I recognized her immediately. Sarah Mitchell, the labor and delivery nurse who had stayed beside me during the hardest night of my life. She took the witness stand and raised her right hand. "Mrs. Mitchell," my attorney asked, "were you present when Mr. Carter signed the parental surrender documents?" Sarah nodded, "Yes." "Did anyone force him?" "No." "Did he understand what he was signing?" Sarah looked directly at Daniel before answering. "He read every page." The courtroom became silent again. Then Sarah quietly added the one detail Daniel had prayed would never become public. "After he signed," she paused. "He looked at Emily and said, 'I deserve a healthy family, not this.'" Daniel's mother covered her face and began crying uncontrollably. His father slowly stepped away from his son. Without saying a single word, he walked across the courtroom and sat beside me. Daniel's father remained beside me without saying a word. His mother couldn't stop crying. The judge called for a short recess and the courtroom slowly emptied, but Daniel never moved. He stood exactly where he had been, staring at the floor as if the last 20 minutes had erased everything he believed about himself. When the judge left the room, he finally turned toward me. "Emily." His voice was barely audible. "Can we talk?" I looked at my attorney. She nodded once and stepped outside with Dr. Collins, leaving the three of us alone. Daniel took a cautious step forward. "Is she really?" He looked toward the little girl playing quietly with her stuffed rabbit. "My daughter," I answered without emotion. "She has always been your daughter." He closed his eyes. "Why didn't you tell me she survived?" I couldn't believe what I had just heard. "I called you every day for 2 weeks." He frowned. "What?" I left voice messages. I paused. I sent emails. Another pause. "I even came to your office." His face slowly drained of color. "I never got them." I nodded. "Because you blocked my number the day after you signed the papers." Daniel slowly sat down in the nearest chair. His hands covered his face. "My God," he whispered. I thought. He couldn't finish the sentence. I looked at him calmly. "You didn't think." The words were quiet, but they landed harder than if I had shouted them. "You decided our daughter wasn't worth fighting for before she even had the chance to fight for herself." Tears rolled down his face. "Can I meet her?" I looked toward the little girl. She was coloring quietly at the witness table, completely unaware that her entire future was being discussed only a few feet away. "That isn't my decision anymore." Daniel looked confused. "What do you mean?" I smiled sadly. 5 years ago you chose not to be her father." I looked back at him. "Today. She's old enough to decide whether she wants to know you." Just then, my daughter looked up from her coloring book and walked slowly toward us. Daniel immediately stood. His hands were shaking. He tried to smile, but the guilt on his face was impossible to hide. She stopped about 6 feet away and looked at him with quiet curiosity. "Are you really my daddy?" she asked. Daniel nodded through tears. "Yes." She thought about that for several seconds. Then she asked the one question no lawyer, no judge, and no witness could answer for him. "If you're my daddy..." She hugged her stuffed rabbit tightly against her chest. "Where were you on my birthdays?" Daniel's lips trembled. No words came out, not one. The silence answered her better than anything he could have said. She looked at me, reached for my hand, and quietly whispered, "Mommy." Then she turned back toward Daniel one last time. "I think..." She paused. "In Dr. Collins has been more of a daddy than you." The courtroom remained silent after my daughter's words. Daniel stood frozen, unable to answer. He opened his mouth several times, but every excuse died before it became a sentence. Finally, his father stood up, slowly, quietly. He walked over until he was standing directly in front of his son. For a moment, I thought he was going to comfort him. Instead, he looked him straight in the eyes and asked, "Did you really tell us Emily couldn't have children?" Daniel lowered his head. "Yes." His father's voice remained calm. "Did you know your daughter was alive when you signed those papers?" Daniel whispered, "Yes." Another painful silence filled the courtroom. Then his father did something none of us expected. He removed the Carter family ring from his finger, a ring passed from father to son for 3 generations, and placed it on the witness table. "You spent 5 years pretending to be a victim," he said quietly. "The only victim in this courtroom is that little girl." Without another word, he turned and walked away from his own son. Daniel's mother slowly approached me with tears streaming down her face. She looked at my daughter, then back at me. "Emily," she whispered, "I don't expect you to forgive us." She paused, struggling to breathe. "But we never knew." I believed her. They had been lied to just as everyone else had. She knelt in front of my daughter and smiled through her tears. "You're beautiful." My daughter smiled politely but stayed close to me. She had learned long ago that not every stranger deserved her trust. Daniel watched the moment unfold from across the courtroom, realizing that the family he had tried to protect with lies was slipping away because of those very lies. Even his attorney quietly gathered his files without saying a word. There was nothing left to defend. The judge returned to the bench and looked across the courtroom before speaking. "Mr. Carter, this court has heard enough." She reviewed the evidence one final time before closing the folder. "Your repeated false statements have significantly affected these proceedings." Daniel remained standing with his eyes fixed on the floor. The judge continued. "The court will reconvene tomorrow morning for its final decision regarding the divorce and all parental matters." She struck the gavel once. "Court is adjourned." As everyone began leaving, Daniel hurried toward me. "Emily, please," he begged. "Just give me one chance to explain everything." Before I could answer, my daughter squeezed my hand and quietly looked up at me. "Mommy," she whispered, "do we have to come back tomorrow?" I gently brushed a strand of hair from her face and smiled. "Yes, sweetheart." She looked across the courtroom at Daniel one last time. Then she asked a question that made him completely freeze. "Will the judge decide if he gets to be my daddy?" The next morning, the courtroom was even more crowded than before. News of the previous hearing had spread quickly through the city. Every seat was filled. Reporters waited outside the courthouse, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man who had spent years telling everyone his wife was infertile while hiding the existence of his own daughter. Daniel entered alone. His parents arrived separately and quietly took seats beside me instead of behind him. He noticed immediately. He didn't say a word. His shoulders simply sank a little lower. My daughter sat beside me holding the same stuffed rabbit she had carried the day before. She smiled when she saw Dr. Collins walk into the courtroom. He smiled back. Daniel watched the exchange and lowered his eyes. He knew exactly what it meant. Someone else had been there for every birthday, every surgery, every sleepless night, not him. When the judge entered, the room became silent. She reviewed the final documents before looking directly at Daniel. "Mr. Carter," she began, "this court is deeply concerned by your deliberate deception." She paused. "You falsely represented your wife as infertile, knowingly abandoned your daughter, and misled both your family and this court for years." Daniel quietly nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." There were no excuses left. The judge continued. "The divorce is granted effective immediately." She signed the order and slid it toward the court clerk. "As for the child," she looked toward my daughter with a gentle smile. "Primary legal and physical custody is awarded exclusively to Emily Carter." I felt my eyes fill with tears, but I remained calm. The judge then turned back to Daniel. "You are not denied the opportunity to build a relationship with your daughter." Daniel looked up hopefully. "However," the judge continued, "that relationship will exist only if the child wishes it, and only after a licensed family therapist determines that contact is in her best interest." Daniel slowly closed his eyes. He understood. Being her biological father no longer gave him the right to simply walk back into her life. As everyone stood to leave, Daniel quietly walked toward us one final time. He knelt in front of my daughter but kept a respectful distance. "I know I don't deserve it," he said softly. "But maybe one day you'll let me get to know you." My daughter looked at him for several seconds without speaking. Then she asked, "If I say no, will you leave Mommy alone?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Yes." She nodded once, "Okay." He waited, hoping she would say something more. Instead, she simply reached for my hand. I smiled gently at him. "It's time for us to go." As we walked toward the courtroom doors, Daniel remained where he was, watching the family he had thrown away disappear one step at a time. He didn't try to stop us. He finally understood that some mistakes cannot be undone, only regretted. 6 months later, life looked completely different. The divorce was over. The court's decision had never been challenged. My daughter and I had moved into a small white house overlooking the Pacific Ocean just north of San Diego. It wasn't as large as the house Daniel and I once shared, but every room felt warm and peaceful. For the first time in years, there were no arguments, no lies, and no fear of tomorrow. Every Saturday morning, we walked along the beach collecting seashells. Every Sunday evening, we watched the sunset from our porch with hot chocolate in our hands. My daughter laughed more than she ever had before. Sometimes I caught myself smiling for no reason at all. I had spent so many years trying to save a marriage that I forgot what it felt like to simply live. Daniel kept the promise he made in court. He never came to the house. He never called unexpectedly. Once a month, he sent a handwritten letter addressed to our daughter. Sometimes she opened them. Sometimes she didn't. I never pressured her. One afternoon, she finally asked me, "Mom, why does he keep writing?" I thought carefully before answering. Because people sometimes understand the value of something only after they've lost it. She looked down at one of the letters for a moment before quietly placing it back into the envelope. I'm not ready yet. I kissed the top of her head. You don't have to be. Healing couldn't be rushed. Neither could trust. Those were things Daniel would have to earn if he ever could. A few weeks later, my daughter graduated from kindergarten. Parents filled the school auditorium with flowers and cameras. As the children walked onto the stage, I noticed someone quietly standing near the back of the room. It was Daniel. He stayed far away from us, exactly as the court had instructed. He didn't wave. He didn't interrupt. He simply watched. When the ceremony ended, my daughter ran toward me with a certificate clutched tightly in her hands. Mommy. She laughed. I did it. I hugged her as tightly as I could. As we walked toward the parking lot, she suddenly looked back at Daniel. He smiled through tears but didn't move. Then she slipped her small hand into mine and looked up at me. Mom, she said softly, I always wondered what a real family felt like. I smiled and now. She squeezed my hand. Now I know. As we walked toward the California sunset together, I realized something I wished I had understood years earlier. A family isn't defined by the people who leave. It's defined by the people who stay. And for the first time in a very long time, we finally had everything we needed, the end.